Somos Capi y Perdicaki de Tan Grande y Jugando, y este es Kawa.
Desde hace un poco más de un año estamos comprometidos con los desarrolladores indies de Colombia y América Latina. Queremos mostrarle al mundo el talento de nuestra región. Por eso necesitamos de tu ayuda para hacerlo realidad.
Realizamos entrevistas a desarrolladores de juegos en Colombia y América Latina. Además, tenemos otros materiales como gameplays y reseñas.
Amamos la industria y queremos crecer para ser una enorme ventana de contenido. Y tú puedes hacer parte de este crecimiento. Ahora puedes apoyarnos en Patreon, una plataforma de membresía en la que productores de contenido como nosotros recibimos apoyo económico para darle vida y seguimiento a nuestros proyectos. En nuestro caso, un proyecto comprometido con el crecimiento de la economía naranja.
Siendo nuestro patrocinador mensual con un significativo apoyo, puedes cambiar para siempre el futuro de estas industrias. Al tiempo que recibes beneficios como tener tu nombre en el crédito de uno de nuestros videos, hacer parte de nuestra comunidad de Discord, o cuando ya eres un Patreon de alto nivel, recibir obsequios en la puerta de tu casa.
Con tu apoyo podemos seguir produciendo contenido especializado para los desarrolladores. Nuestro mejor logro hasta el momento es que hemos realizado cubrimiento de más de 24 a 48 horas en Game Jams, algo nunca antes visto. Entramos a la intimidad del desarrollo.
Esto fortalece a los indies y permite que muestren su talento en vivo y en directo. Con los fondos que recaudemos podemos dar contenido más seguido, más rápido y más cercano.
La industria de los videojuegos indies es demasiado grande, demasiado exitosa, demasiado creativa para ser tan invisible. Ayúdanos a contagiar al mundo de la fiebre de Tan Grande y Jugando.
Suscríbete a nuestro canal de YouTube, comparte nuestros contenidos en redes y si puedes, patrocina por Patreon, un canal pensado para hacer crecer esta comunidad.
Minasai, onegai shimasu, supportas.
Buenas, ¿cómo están?
Hola, hola.
Uy, Dios mío, tenemos un montón de actividad para quienes nos están justamente como sintonizando hoy. Hemos estado compartiendo con todo el equipo de desarrollo, bueno, no todo, pero sí, pues con las personas que dirigieron el desarrollo de CrisTales. Ha sido una aventura súper bonita. ¿Ustedes cómo han visto estos streams, Ana? ¿Se han visto los streams?
Yo lo he visto increíble. ¿Es para allá? Ah, no es para allá. Yo lo he visto increíble. Buenísimo, de verdad. Todo muy, muy chévere. Sandy, que definitivamente te estoy viendo aquí al lado. ¿Y acá? ¿Qué hubo?
Sí, aquí la derecha es la izquierda.
¿Cómo
bueno,
vas?
arriba sí sigue siendo abajo.
¿Cómo van en el piso de abajo?
Es confuso, ¿no? O sea, uno piensa que está muy claro, pero no, es diferente.
Y Mandy está allá. Hola, Mandy.
No. Hola, José. Sí, es para allá, sí.
¿Qué vas?
Yo puedo mirar para arriba, José.
¿Cómo van allá en el piso de abajo?
Hola,
No puede ser. Estamos aquí atorándonos con el arriba y el abajo. Pues, gente, bienvenidos a estos nuevos streams de Tan Grande y Jugando. Justamente tenemos un montón de actividades planeadas, entre ellas, pues, hoy tenemos un invitado muy especial que todavía no lo vamos a ingresar, pero tenemos, pues bueno, un montón de noticias que darles. La primera de ellas, recuerden que ya se abrieron las inscripciones al Women Game Jam. ¡Tarán! Para quienes todavía no se han inscrito, recuerden que hay posibilidades de inscribirse en cualquier país. Simplemente agréguense. Ahí les estoy mandando por los mensajes de chat donde se pueden inscribir justamente para que puedan hacer parte de este Women Game Jam. Muchos del equipo de CrisTales, o sea, Dreams Incorporated y Psych, van a ser parte de los mentores para estar apoyándonos justamente en esta labor. No es el único jam que hacemos en el año. Después de este se nos viene nuestro segundo jam, no mentiras, como nuestro quinto jam del año, que es el Network Jam. Ese sí es completamente nuevo. Viene con un montón de sorpresas súper chéveres, pero antes de eso, pues justamente Juan nos tiene noticias de lo que se viene para el Women Game Jam.
Bueno, pues para este Woman Game Jam vamos a hacer la tercera temporada de La Caverna del Gecko, que es una serie de charlas que pues hemos venido haciendo con diferentes personas dedicadas al audio para videojuegos. Y pues como es el Woman Game Jam, pues tratamos de que sean puras women antes del Woman Game Jam. Entonces para esta versión pues vamos a tener 3 charlas, el 5, el 11 y el 18 de agosto. El 5 de agosto vamos a encontrarnos con Jazmín. Se me olvidó ahorita el apellido. Es que no me acuerdo bien. Es como
Giolito. Giolito.
Giolito. Y estas tecnologías. Y el 11 vamos a estar hablando con Rachel Sim, que ella es productora de A Shell in the Pit, que es una empresa que hace audio para videojuegos en Canadá. Y el 18 vamos a hablar con Naila Burney, que es una colombiana que trabaja en Ubisoft Montreal. ¿Montreal? Sí, creo que Montreal es el Ubisoft donde trabaja. Ya es especializada en la voz, más que todo, en la voz de los videojuegos.
¡Guay, qué chévere!
Entonces, pues nada, va a estar muy interesante. Igual ahí están las versiones pasadas
De las conferencias.
de las conferencias guardadas. Entonces, pues esperen, las busco aquí de rapidez, sí, las tengo por aquí guardadas.
Un Gecko Vault, lo que tienes ahí.
Sí, y ahí las pueden ver las pasadas. Ahí hemos hablado con gente pues muy chévere de diferentes países latinoamericanos, habla hispana, canadienses, y todos pues contando su historia y mostrando pues lo increíble que es el mundo del audio para los videojuegos y cómo todos podemos pues llegar ahí de cualquier manera.
Pues
Y ya,
nada,
eso es.
inscríbanse. Inscríbanse porque esto va a estar súper bueno. Tenemos opciones de inscripción en inglés, portugués y español en el momento. Y tenemos además más países invitados. Vamos a tener a países de África, vamos a tener Australia también. Y no me acuerdo de los otros invitados, soy lo peor. Pero bueno, ahí va creciendo un montón el Women Game Jam. Es una iniciativa súper chévere. Mandy hace un año fue una de nuestras conferencistas, me parece. ¿Cómo fue tu experiencia como mentora,
Sí,
conferencista y llamera?
fue súper chévere y además que fue mi primer Game Jam también y fue genial. Sí, estuve ahí también charlando con Juan un poquito como de, pues de lo que he hecho y de nuestro proceso. Justamente también entré a llamear con dos de mis compañeras de trabajo, con las que pues trabajo en la empresa. Y este año también voy a entrar. La artista no va a entrar con nosotras porque está súper ocupada, ya me inscribí, pero la programadora y yo estamos buscando otro equipo, o sea, artistas, ya somos audio y programación, así que si hay
Ah,
artistas
súper
por ahí
chévere.
viendo esto, pues...
Bueno, este año justamente vamos a cerrar las inscripciones el 15 de agosto, aunque iniciamos el 20, 5 días antes es para poder enviarles la entrada al Discord y que ustedes se vayan conociendo y que pues vaya siendo un espacio muy fraterno, muy divertido, muy emocionante. Pero bueno, ahora sí, antes de iniciar con nuestro invitado de hoy, les advierto, la conferencia va a ser enteramente en inglés, pero antes de que pues José nos lo presente, yo quería preguntarles, ¿vieron que hubo gente que sacó un fanmate de, de nuestro querido CrisTales?
Un intro en anime.
Un intro en
Y,
anime.
y les quedó, o sea, muy, muy, muy bacano. De verdad, uno
Y esto es
pensa,
enteramente fanmate. O sea, esto es increíble. Me voy a callar desde este momento y los dejo disfrutarlo.
灰色の瞳に映る影はもろく今を奏でることの葉が明日紡ぐ儚ったその胸壊す大地踏みしめ迫り来る風に髪もなるさだここプレゼンしよう空をあやかに飾る星空に儚い祈りを奇跡なんか待たず君に会いに行くよ輝く夢抱きしめて
joder, que esto debería ser una serie, de verdad. Netflix, si estás escuchando esto. Claro, uy, increíble, ¿no? La gente sí. No, sin palabras. Muy, muy, muy bacano.
Bueno, total. Ya, ahora sí, démosle entrada a nuestro querido invitado de hoy. Taratatara, ¿a quién traemos, José?
Bueno, drum roll. El invitado de hoy es pues los que jugaron CrisTales ya saben que el hombre no necesita mucha presentación porque ya su música pues habla mucho por él. Estamos muy honrados de que esté acá.
Y hablando de música, voy a compartirles en el chat pues, donde pueden encontrar la música de CrisTales. Y así, si no la han escuchado, pues...
Sí, escúchenla que de verdad vale la pena. Entonces Tyson es un compositor, streamer, un ninja en Mario Maker. de verdad. Y bueno, Tyson, welcome.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
What's up, man? So glad to have
Hello.
you here. How's everything down there?
Wrong way. It was over this way. Okay. Sorry. Hello.
Well, les recuerdo a todos que nuestra entrevista de hoy va a ser enteramente en inglés, como justamente está en la descripción de este video. Es un excelente momento para que vayan practicando en inglés, porque pues claramente esta industria de desarrollo necesita mucho power en English. So, vamos.
So yeah, Tyson, again, welcome. Thank you for being here. We're really glad. We're really happy to have you here, talking about music, talking about whatever you want to talk, and of course answering questions. By the way, a los de la audiencia, si tienen preguntas pueden dejarlas aquí en el chat. Déjenlas en español si quieren, que aquí las traducimos, no pasa nada. So yeah, switching back to English. So yeah, Tyson, tell us a little bit about yourself, like real quick, about who is Tyson Wernli? Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a weird name.
I was going to screw it up.
It's okay. It's Wernli. You're fine. It's okay. Don't even worry about it. You said we could talk about it whatever we wanted. I was going to ask you about all the stuff behind you first, but we can talk about me first if that's fine. I guess
these are like my CDs. Let me show you.
Do you use CDs in 2021?
These are my favorite ones. Dream Theater.
Wait, you're a Dream? People made some references to the CrisTales soundtrack in Dream Theater. I got more than a couple.
Really?
Dream Theater to like the battle themes. Yeah. But perhaps Dream Theater is just big in my community. I'm not sure. I mean, I listened to some Dream Theater in high school. I liked Liquid Tension Experiment more because I wasn't a big fan of the Dream Theater vocalist. I was like, wait, you take all the best parts of Dream Theater and you get rid of the vocalist? Okay, let's do that. Let's do Liquid Tension instead. I'm sorry, Dream Theater, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I love you.
Lord
sorry.
Petrucci, sorry. We're not.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into music? How was everything with the game? We know that you stream a lot of Mario Maker content on your Twitch channel. So yeah, how's all that?
Sure, yeah, a little bit about myself. I mean, I've been a part of the music program in school, from as early as third grade. I always loved playing drums and percussion. That's my main instrument. I love the marimba. Actually, four mallet marimba was like my specialty in high school and college. And so big percussion influence in all of my stuff. So yeah, college educated musician, and spent a lot of my 20s trying to take over the world with music to one capacity or another. Spoiler alert, it did not work out. But yeah, I'm also a big gamer. Grew up playing video games. I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but video game music was definitely an inspiration growing up. The idea that you could write a piece of music that's only maybe 90 seconds long, but it's so catchy and good that you can listen to it for a half an hour on repeat and you don't mind. You're like, yes, more of this. And so video games, big influence on me, of course. But yeah, I've been a big fan of Mario, and the Mario games. And so I was browsing YouTube one day and I saw that, there's a game where you can make your own Mario Maker levels. And then I saw some streamers on Twitch that were playing levels, and I noticed that you can make music levels in Mario Maker. And I'm like, this is so cool that like you can, because I had Mario Paint. Did anybody else here have Mario Paint as a child? Was that just me? Okay. Gecko, maybe?
I
hyped.
played it in emulators because I didn't.
Oh, you played it in emulators? Yeah, I don't know if you remember like the little music editor in Mario Paint, right? With the little doggy sounds and all of that. So I'm sorry, did you want to say something there, Jose?
No, that I remember that I was so thrilled that Mario Paint was played with a mouse. The Super Nintendo. It was like, how did they do that, man?
Yeah. And I think that my parents probably thought that it was like an educational game, and so it was like better to get me Mario Paint than like Mortal Kombat or something, right? And so when I found out that you could make music levels in Mario Maker, my ego naturally thought, I bet I could make some really cool music levels in Mario Maker. And so I got it. And I did what everybody does when they get Mario Maker, and I went on Twitch and tried to find people to play my levels. And I had a couple streamers that I was a really big fan of. And so like getting them to play one of my levels on stream was like goal one, right? Can I make a level and get my favorite streamers to play it? One of the streamers that I really enjoyed watching is a streamer by the name of Barbarous King. He would play viewer levels, and I made a level with music specifically for him in the hopes that he would play it and like it and everything. And he did, and I kind of became a regular member of his stream, and he started working on a Super Mario World ROM hack. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with Super Mario World Kaizo ROM hacks. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anybody here. Well, I should have prepared a clip, but there's a program that you can use to make your own, like Super Mario World, the one with Yoshi and Dinosaur Island, right? The one for the Super Nintendo. So there is a program that you can use to make your own Super Mario World like fan game or hack, right? And they're pretty big. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with like GDQ, Games Done Quick, the speedrunning charity event. They get played at those events. And so my friend, he was working on one of those games, making his own Super Mario World ROM hack. And just like you can make your own custom levels, you can put your own custom music in that hack. And he had already known me from Mario Maker. And I convinced him that I knew how to put music in the Super Mario World ROM hack. I had no idea, but I told him that I knew how to do it because I wanted to be a part of, because he was making the game. I knew it was going to have a big audience. The person he was making the game for was another streamer that I really liked. And it was a project that I wanted to be a part of, not because I was getting paid for it, not because I was getting exposure for it or anything, just because it seemed like a really fun thing to do. Right. So the way that you go about making music for the game, essentially involves a text pad document. You're just putting in words on a notepad, and it turns it into music. But so I was working on some music for him, and then one day on stream, Barb, a Barbarous King, we call him Barb affectionately. He was putting some of the music that I had made for the game into the game. He was working on the game on stream, and Derek, who works for Modus, is apparently also a fan of Barbarous King. And so he was actually watching the stream one day. And at the time that he was watching, they were in the middle of doing some auditions for composers for CrisTales. And Yeah. Yes, feel free to interrupt me at any point with questions or responses. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. So Derek, rightly so, was a fan of Barbarous King, as you all should be out there in the viewing audience. And so he was watching him, and he saw that I had written an original piece of music for the game. There was one stage where most of the work that I did on the game, I was taking music from other video games and transcribing it. I was porting the music into Super Mario World. So I was taking music from Streets of Rage or music from Final Fantasy and making it go into the Super Mario World game. But there was a piece of music that I wrote as an original composition for the game that he was working on. And Derek was watching, and he reached out to me on Discord and said, "Hey, I see that you like the retro style games. I watched what you were, what you did for Barb on Twitch, and I'm working with a studio that's making a game that's a love letter to Chrono Trigger and 90s JRPGs. And I was wondering, do you write original music? Do you have it in you? Is that something that interests you?" And so, of course, yes, of course, about as quickly as I can answer. Somebody in chat there, they're talking about the original piece. That's the piece that I wrote for the game there. Thank you, Decay. I appreciate that, buddy.
It was something like, how many tracks can you compose? Yes.
Right. Right. Yes, exactly. The answer is yes. And so he just reached out to me to ask if I was interested in possibly talking with Carlos about the project to see if I'd be a good fit. At that point, it's worth noting that I really had no portfolio, no resume, I was not at the time prepared to go out and audition as a composer for video games, right? I had sort of passively accepted that you're probably not going to take over the world with music at this point. Just, have fun with music when you can. And so I was in no way prepared to interview for something other than to talk to Carlos, much like I'm talking with you right now. And so I got on a call with Carlos, and we talked for probably 3 or 4 hours on a Friday night. And it was clear that that we were cut from the same cloth, that we were, kindred spirits, that we understood each other. We had a rapport almost right away. We got along very well. We joked back and forth with each other. We liked the same kind of games growing up. I think we're the same age, plus or minus a year, but more or less the same age. And I'm sorry, Carlos. I'm sorry. You're an amazing looking 29-year-old. I'm sorry, Carlos. Hey, there he is. He's right down there.
Hey, Carlos.
Hello.
So that now that you mentioned that, man, that is so important because the chemistry between developer and composer is so important because sometimes you can deliver the best music that you think that fits the game, but sometimes the developer or the team has a completely different view of the game, and being able to have a synergy on what do we want for the game, that's so important.
Yes, and I've been very vocal about it since joining the project, that I think that I got the job not necessarily because of any qualifications that I had, but more because we had that really good rapport between us. He could feel my passion. I had told him on the call at the point that I had that I was having the conversation with him, I was actually working with another group of people that were trying to put a game together. And so I had already been on a much smaller scale, doing some freelance work for another project. And I found myself debating whether or not to audition for Carlos as well, because this is the important thing to note. The entirety of the time that I worked on CrisTales, I did it as freelance time. I have another full-time job that I was working the entire time. So like all of the music for the game was done nights and weekends. This has not been my full-time job. And so this has just been a passion project that I've worked on as I could over the past 2.5 years. And so I streamed on Twitch. I had a full-time job. Was already committed to working on another game project. And so I was like, I don't know if I should even apply for this or even try for this one as well. But then I thought of like 12-year-old me in the video store picking Chrono Trigger up off the shelf. And I was like, man, 12-year-old me would kick my butt if I didn't, make an effort. If I didn't at least try to audition, like if I auditioned for it and it all goes up in smoke, then, at least I tried. Right.
You did it for him.
Right. Yes. Exactly. I did it for 12-year-old me. Exactly. Is exactly the point.
There's something that I wanted to mention that is very important, and we talked a lot in the audio talks I do on my channel with Tan Grande Jugando. We talk a lot about showing yourself, and when you lowered quotes your expectations on yourself and just try to have fun. That's the way you were able to get work and to start getting involved with development and start showing what you really are, like the music that really comes from your heart and not the music that comes from you just to take over the world. Like when you forget about
baby steps, but yes. Exactly. And so yes, and that's as if I were to have advice to give anyone, generally it's that I would never tell somebody to work for exposure or to work for free, but I would 100% tell people that you should get involved in a community that's passionate about the same things that you're passionate about. See what you can do to, bring life to somebody, life to somebody else's project, right? That's how all of these dominoes started to fall. I was making Mario Maker levels, and I was making music levels for the streamers that I enjoyed watching. And I wanted to make music levels that they would enjoy playing. And then I worked on music for the Super Mario World ROM hack that was serving somebody else's dreams, somebody else's goals, right? And then, the same thing had happened with CrisTales. And so by not thinking, what do I want for me, but what can I do to help others? What can I do to be a part of somebody else's dream? That really started opening, those doors for me.
And also something that you enjoy is not
right. Yes. And I would have done it for free anyways, because it's fun for me. Right. Yes, exactly. Like you get involved with music, you get involved with the arts because you love doing it. And any benefit you gain from it beyond that is just the icing on the cake, right? Like you have to do it because you love doing it.
You were telling us that, you have this awkward way to start your job opportunity, and you have only your free time to make the songs and to create.
Yes. So I'm sorry. Yeah. Back to the origin story, right? So yes, I talked with Carlos. We seemed to hit it off. And I
is this Carlos?
Yes, this Carlos right here. That is him. Yes. Also known as the man. Yes.
The man.
Yes. So I told him, hey, give me the weekend. And I will try to put together something for you as kind of proof of, what I'm capable of doing, kind of a statement of my work, right? Because I didn't immediately have something for him to listen to. And so I spent the weekend working as long as I could to try and put together, 80, 90 seconds of music for him that kind of went through several different sections to kind of show like, oh, here's something pretty. Here's something heavy, here's something. Uh-oh. Am I okay? Did I freeze?
Yeah, you freeze.
Yeah, you froze, but at least it was in a good frame.
Véalo.
Yeah. Could have been worse.
No. Wow.
What happened?
No. Algo pasa.
He's betraying you.
No,
can you still hear me?
Yeah, we
we
can
do.
still
We
hear
do.
you,
All right,
but we want to
one
see
second.
you at least freeze.
New emotes coming. Somebody.
No, that is not a good. I'm seeing that image. That is not a good look for me. Give me 1 second to just restart it here. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Esto
I
está muy
apologize.
genial. Creo que deberíamos pedirle que
Con
nos muestre
Frozen.
estos 90 segundos.
Con Frozen. Bueno, para las personas que nos están viendo, si tienen preguntas o algo así, pueden ir dejándolas ya en el chat. Y para se las vamos a mostrar a Tyson.
Sí.
Now in English, for the people, for our viewers, any question that you have, you can leave it there in the chat, and we'll make sure that Tyson goes over it.
He's
Okay?
back.
So yeah, he's back.
Tyson,
Yes,
can
hi.
you please show us that 90 seconds of awesome music that you have?
Oh, you mean like the audition, the thing that I
Yeah.
auditioned with?
Yeah.
The demo.
Oh my goodness, you were asking me to like expose myself. It's terrible. Like I don't even like I want to make it better. Can I
Dude,
rework it and then
we know that it's not terrible.
Yeah.
no,
like,
it's pretty rough.
Carlos
It's pretty
hear
rough.
that? No, it doesn't matter. Of course, it changed a lot, but I want to
Right.
know like what did Carlos hear that he was so
Okay.
in love?
Oh no, you're way
it was
building this
love
up.
Hear,
at
not
first song. This
You're
is
you're
his
way
words.
building it up. 1 second. Let me. I think I can find it for you here. One
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
It's no. Lower your expectations. Lower
Nah, I
them.
don't care.
No,
I just want
lower
to.
them.
I just
Lower
want
them
to
1
see.
He's
second.
talking
I just
about
wanna
showing yourself.
Yes.
So it's
You
his
know,
time.
I believe that
honest and transparent here.
if you don't
Believe the
care
woman.
showing it, it is really nice because sometimes people believe that in order to get a gig or in order to audition for something, they have to put the best thing that they can do. They gotta
Mhm.
hire a full orchestra just to do a
Right.
demo. But sometimes the passion and the musical ideas
Mhm.
can be expressed in different ways, right?
Hmm.
So, and I believe that is the case here.
I don't actually know how I can get the audio on my computer to play for you all. Like how can I
Well,
play it back for
If
you?
you send it in a drive file.
Oh, here,
like
I guess
Google
I can attach. I can send it to you. Can I send it to you on Discord and then you can play it through the stream here? Will
Yeah,
that work?
put it.
Oh my goodness, you will all think so little of me after hearing this.
No, we
Oh
don't.
my goodness.
Because we have to also like think how this director saw the opportunity
Okay.
and understand all like what we can have for this moment.
Okay.
This is
There you go. Play it
Okay,
quiet
okay,
so
okay.
nobody else can hear it.
No, but please keep on talking while
okay, yeah, sure. Okay. So I worked over the weekend trying to put something together. It was still very rough when it was finished. It was just as much as I could try and get done in that period of time. And then I think maybe a week or so transpired after I sent it to him. And we had conversations. We talked about, Carlos played it for the team, talked about the things that they liked and that they didn't like about it. And I'm like, oh, there's stuff that you didn't like. That's good because I don't like it either. And here are the things that I already want to fix about it. Right. And I think that stuck with Carlos as well. The fact that like it could always be better. I am 100% a believer that art is never finished, only abandoned. And the reason that you abandon it is because it's got to go in the game and you can't keep working on it, Tyson. Stop it. You're done now. And so I sent him the piece. And like I said, I think it was maybe a week or so later that I found out that they decided to go with me for the part. And I was as shocked as the rest of the world was. And so, that's kind of how the dominoes fell. Like I said, I will contend that, like I said, I think Carlos saw a lot of me, Carlos saw a lot of himself in me, and wanted to, was willing to take me along for the ride. And I will forever be grateful to him for that, because on paper, I had to have been the least qualified person that they auditioned for the job. And so yeah, we got started, and at the point that I got brought on, they were planning on releasing the demo on Steam. Oh no, she's gonna play it. Don't play it.
Are we ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Can I hide? Can I hide for it?
No. It's pretty good. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about saying that is bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, are we all? I mean, everyone here in this chat. Do you all work on music yourself?
Yeah, they do.
Dabble in your free time? Yes.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, do you know of any harsher critic for your music than yourself?
No.
I mean, right? Like,
Yeah,
am I alone in this?
I feel
right?
you, man. No, I feel you.
Do the rest of you think about your music like Kanye must think about his music, or like no, like you're right?
But I think that's
Like,
narcissism.
I'm not going to a party and putting on my own music in the playlist, right? Like, I'm not Prince or anything, so like I can't, like that's not me. So yes, I mean, I am very much a pen and paper composer. Like, I want to write sheet music and take it to an orchestra and have them play it, right? Like the getting everything about the mix right, getting the computer to be as smart about music as professional musicians would be is always the battle, right? And so yes, that piece that we just listened to, it's very rough in that none of the instruments are playing at the right loud. What we
This is the link for the music, so they can.
Oh, got you.
You keep talking.
Okay, good deal. I didn't know if Mamacita was telling me something. I wanted to make sure.
Mamacita.
For sure, Mamacita.
Mamacita.
So yeah. So yes. I hear it. It sounds rough to me, but you can hear in that piece elements that very much speak to the way that I put music together, right? There's several different sections. Everything's constantly transitioning into another section. Use of odd time, use of syncopation, percussion, all of the offbeat accent sort of
You can
stuff,
tell
right?
that the composer is a percussionist just by listening
Right.
to it.
Yes. Yes.
I couldn't do that. I am like a 4/4, 3/4, 7/4, maybe here and there, but
Yeah. Yeah. There's some 7/8 in the CrisTales soundtrack. There's some 11/8. There's some odd time stuff in there. I'm a really big. The thing that I love about odd time is I love writing odd time that the casual listener would not realize is odd. That they're just still sitting there going,
yeah,
and like they don't even realize that it's all the sort of funkiness that's going on underneath, right? So yeah, that was the piece that I sent Carlos, and he foolishly said yes. And so I'm not sure what the conversations were like that resulted in them giving me the job. I don't know if I would have wanted to be in the room to hear those conversations, but all the same, they offered me the job, and they said, "Hey, we have a demo. We have a demo that's going live in a couple months, and this is the part of the game that we're presenting for the demo, and this is the music that we need, by that deadline." And I got cracking.
How was the back and forth process with the team? Like, did you got lots of feedbacks, change this, change that, move this? How was that? Or was like, again, something that instantly love us first, second and third song?
No, I mean, I just no, it was all flawless from the very beginning. There was everything just worked brilliantly. So in the beginning, when I got on, we already had one piece for the game, The Town of Norim, which is written by Norihiko Hibino. And so that kind of helped inform me a bit of what they were going for, because they had already had this other piece commissioned. I want to write, my goal is to, make an orchestra play like a rock band, right? Like that when I'm writing music, that's kind of what I'm thinking, right? And so when we first started going, I know that like for any of you musicians out there, the idea of like temp music is a naughty word, right? But I wanted, the thing is that nothing is more terrifying than a blank piece of paper, right? Where you're told that you can do anything. I wanted the box, right? I wanted to be put in the box. And we knew that, again, I was doing this in my free time. We already had a deadline with the demo. And so we didn't have time, in my opinion, for me to take 3 or 4 swings at a piece before we got it right. And so you could tell someone, I want an upbeat rock track for this area of the game, but I could go find 50 different pieces of music that all sound different that you could all call an upbeat rock and roll track, right? And so in the beginning, the discussions that we had were like, what music do you think of when you think of this section? Like whether that's music from another video game, music from an anime, from a TV show, from a movie, because the first thing that I wanted to do is crawl inside Carlos's head, right? I wanted to know exactly what he was going for, even if he couldn't tell me in words what it was that he was looking for. And so early on when we were talking about pieces, that's kind of how we approached it, is that he would send me some ideas for like, when I think of the Floodside District, or when I think of St. Clarity, this is some music that I think of, right? And then I would take that information back and I would go, okay, what is it about this music that causes that emotional reaction with Carlos that makes him think that this is the right music for this, or this is the kind of music that he would want for this area. I'm looking at chord progressions. I'm looking at instrumentation, right? I'm looking at the overall vibe or mood of the piece. And then the question became like, how do I make something, like how do I satisfy that need with my own work, right? How do I achieve that same emotional response with the piece that I'm writing, right? And a lot of people want to talk about music, very ethereal, right? Like the heavens spoke to me, the muses spoke to me, and I reached out and I grabbed that piece of music from the heavens, right? But I think a lot of it is to do well composing. You have to understand the history of your culture's music that came before you, because the casual listener is informed on a daily basis of what type of music elicits what type of emotional response. And that boils down to certain chord progressions or certain instrumentations, right? And I think the job as the composer is to understand how those compositional tools translate to an emotional response, right? And so that was my objective, was how do I elicit those, those same feelings, that same vibe, without stealing, obviously, while making it my own, while making it unique, right? And so that's how we started early on. And then we would get periodic feedback. There would be a couple of times where I would submit a piece and they're like, I like this, but not for the thing that you wrote it for. Let's use it for this other area of the game. Or I like the A section, but I don't like the B section so much. Or, so like there would be some little back and forth in the beginning there. But because I had gone through that initial step of talking about other music, right? Because I don't know how you really talk about music without listening to other music, right? Like that's why we have music, because words fail us, right? And so once we had those early conversations and we started getting through a couple of pieces, we needed to have those early conversations less and less often, right? Because we had started to create the sound of CrisTales through the pieces that had been written. And so the further that we got into the development of the game, the more I was just sort of given free reign to just, hey, we need another battle theme. Hey, we need music for this town, right? And later in the development, I would send them maybe 30, 45 seconds of music and say, hey, am I headed in the right direction? It might be only like 60, 70% finished, but am I going in a good direction here? Yes, no, take that feedback, go back, finish up the piece, submit, move on to the next piece, right?
Okay, so for all this scenario music, CrisTales is a game that it is based in Colombian culture too. Did you have to investigate a little bit more about our local music instruments and identity?
Yeah, that was a conversation that we had early on as well. And Carlos told me all about the architecture and the locations and the landscape of Colombia and how that influenced the art style of the game. And by now, I'm sure you've all seen the articles that do the comparisons between the places in Colombia and the places in CrisTales. But he wanted to make sure that the way that I kind of thought of it, and I don't want to speak for anyone else here, but the way that I kind of imagined it is that Carlos wanted to create a fantasy RPG world where the fantasy was informed by the art and culture of Colombia, right? For the art style. But when it came to the music, he didn't want it to sound like a Colombian JRPG. He wanted it to sound like a JRPG. He didn't want the music to feel like it was pigeonholing, the scope of the game. He wanted it to feel like it was a JRPG that could sit among other JRPGs and not like, oh, well, this is the Colombian JRPG and these are the other JRPGs, right? And so to that end, I wasn't honestly tasked too much with take these Colombian influences and bring them into the music. Now, there are certainly pieces throughout the game that I think share melodic or rhythmic elements that are also found in Colombian music, particularly like the music in St. Clarity.
I heard the accordion there. Yeah.
yes, there is some accordion in there. Yes, and so the Floodside District piece, the instrumentation of that was very specific because it did not seem right for that music to be a full orchestra piece, right? This is an impoverished community that is not being treated well by those in power. They don't have a full orchestra to play their theme, right? And so I wanted the music for the Floodside District to sound like something that a group of friends on a street corner could have all gotten together and played, right? It's 2 guitars, accordion, there's some marimba in there, there's an acoustic bass, and I think a flute, a pan flute, and it's a very sparse instrumentation, right? Because I wanted it to sound like music that the citizens of that city could get together and play, and not just some bombastic orchestral number, right? And then it complemented it, against the Walled City, which was very orchestrated, very bombastic, very kind of full of itself by comparison, right? So yeah, I would say that the Clarity music is the closest that I came to trying to achieve something that spoke specifically to music of Colombia, but that was because, like I said, the intent was, we are a studio in Colombia that is making a JRPG game more than we are a studio making a Colombian JRPG game, right?
Do you want to hear
any of that makes sense?
A fun story about St. Clarity?
Always.
I actually live in the region, in the city that St. Clarity was inspired on, like in the coastal part.
Oh yeah,
of Colombia, yeah. And I was saying, like, man, this is so nice. But when I saw I was speaking with your mamacita, actually, she was like, yeah, the city floods just like your city.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, we got those kind of floods here. And when I was playing, I was like, oh, those poor kids, man. But then I was like, wait a moment, I'm the poor kid. What the heck? Oh no. I'm that guy. So yeah, I got that realization. But again, it's cool. It's cool. Like taking that, and I believe that is very, very, what's the word? Acertado. It's like very spot on. To have the Colombian influence and the Colombian kind of fantasy, but still make it a global sounding game, right? Yeah. This game can be played. It's not you're not taking literally things from the Colombian music, but you're getting inspired by it and putting it into a global context. You know,
right?
I mean?
Yes, exactly.
So
yeah,
so
and there.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, that was. I tend to speak a lot too. So we will get along famously then, if only we can let each other talk, right? So yes, I don't remember now what I was going to say, but because I'm a percussionist, because I love those syncopated rhythms, I think that's what caused a lot of people to draw those comparisons as well. There's been more than a handful of reviewers that when they talk about the music, they talk about the Colombian influences in the music. And I'm just happy that they're saying nice things, of course. As far as the soundtrack overall went, I would say that the music for Clarity is probably the closest that I come to trying to draw those connections. But that's how the music ended up kind of being segmented by area of the game, right? All of the music in the St. Clarity chapter of the game shares some commonalities. And then the Tolera music uses much more of the like Baroque style voice leading counterpoint
because it's an ancient city. And so there's a lot of movement through circle of fifths, introduction of harpsichord, proper voice leading, all of that stuff that they teach you like in music theory in college, right? And then the Cinder sort of became the area of the game that I would call like the kind of JRPG blues music, right? It's not really jazz music, but it's that music that you hear in RPG games when like the biker gang is about to approach you in the alley, you know, like that kind of more swung, looser, kind of bluesier feel. And so that's what was really fun about the game, is that it allowed me to paint with many different brushes, right? Like I could write in several different styles, and it all fit the elements of the game. It fit the art style, it fit the narrative, it fit that area of the game.
Yeah, I have a question.
Please.
Did you mix everything yourself?
That depends. Do you have bad or good things to say about it?
I'm not gonna say. No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it was all me, for better or for worse. I am not, I would go to say that like I am not as experienced with the audio mixing engineering portion of the music writing as I would like to be. Like I said, my dream is to just write out the sheet music and then take it to a professional orchestra and sit, of course, I mean, who doesn't want that? I mean, none of you all would be interested in that, right? Like, no, of course we all want that, right? But yes, I spent a lot of time trying to learn a lot of stuff that I felt that I needed to know more about, right? And so the entire soundtrack is 100% programmed. There's not a single live recorded instrument in the entire OST. And so
not even the guitars?
Nope, it is all 100% programmed. Yeah,
but that's what makes it sound so JRPG.
No, and I leaned into that, right? Like there were a couple of things that I sort of accepted as shortcomings of mine, but also as ways to turn those into opportunities. And that is that we wanted to make a game that was modeled after and a love letter to those 90s JRPGs. And when you're talking about the physical limitations of the audio for like the Super Nintendo console, you don't have a lot of rubato. You don't have a lot of accelerando and retardando. The tempo is not changing a lot, right? Like because it's very limited in terms of its capacity, right? And so when I was working on the music, the objective was regardless of how dense and full as I could make the orchestra sound, I wanted to make sure that the melody was strong enough and that the rhythm and the groove and the bass line was strong enough that it could be condensed into a track for Super Nintendo and still work, right? I could take all of this and break it down into 8 monophonic channels and make a Super Nintendo port of the music, and that it would still work, right? And so that was sort of my aim, was to like lean into those parts that like, yes, it's a full orchestra, but it's also computers, it's also machines doing the work. It's also, I tried to lean into that retro to my benefit. Whether or not it paid off or not, I guess, time will tell.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go to succeed getting an aesthetic for a game. If you want to make it sound like a Super Nintendo, you can start limiting yourself on the sounds, or looking for sound fonts or stuff like that you can relate, or just not using trackers for the sake of it, but maybe just having a slight research on how did they do that on that time, and you can start from there, and it's easier to get the aesthetics right.
Yeah, and if you, and to anybody out there, like, if you like that style of music, like, yes, I used some Spitfire audio plugins. I used expensive plugins for the game, but you can make great sounding music with free FamiTracker software. You can make great sounding music with sound fonts that you can download off of the internet and, put into any digital audio workstation, and I think that's what's great kind of about the SNES era of music, is that the sprites still look great, the music still sounds great, and so, but yeah, that was kind of the aim. I accepted the limitations. I knew that I wasn't going to have live performers for the OST. I knew that there wasn't going to be somebody else mixing and mastering it for me, and so I just had to take my best swing at it and hope for the best, and waited the entire time for the other shoe to fall and for somebody to put me in my place and be like, what do you think you were doing making the music for this game? But so far everyone's been real nice, and so I'm happy about that.
I have a question before we enter, because
Sure.
I think we should answer people like public's questions. But yeah, regarding the orchestration, because when I listened to the soundtrack, I could notice that it had a lot of variation, but it still sounded like so cohesive in itself. Like it had like an identity. So you were talking about how you managed to accomplish that, this constantly talking with Carlos, but in talking about music, how do you feel you could like make that sound so cohesive with that much variation of the orchestration itself?
No, this
That's
is a great
really good
question. Thank you.
Hmm.
I love writing with themes and motifs, right? I think before I ever thought about a video game music, I also loved film and the scores of John Williams, right? And the idea that you could take a couple of notes and use that to represent a character, and that you could then reference that back later, right? Like there's a reason that when we watch Star Wars and we see the binary sunset and the Force theme plays, that we get emotional, right? We have that association with the theme. We've heard it played other moments, right? John Williams has used the tools of composition to influence our emotions, even though we, the listener, may not know, right? And so there's a heavy use of themes and motifs in the game that I tried to use to tie pieces together, so that even if you didn't realize that this theme from this piece was now being used in this other piece, even if you maybe didn't realize it on a conscious level, like your brain knew something that you up here didn't realize, right? Oh shoot, what was the other thing? I had another very solid point that I swore I was going to make, but the use of the motifs, and goodness, maybe it will come back to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go. Like if you want, we can like keep on other question, and maybe you're going to go back.
Sure, yeah, maybe it will come back to me. There was another very solid point there, I'm sure, but I keep trying to grasp at it. Yeah, let's ask another question. We'll see if it comes back to me, and I'll have one of these moments.
But
Eureka moment.
That's a good explanation on how music for visuals and video games work. It's like a secret influence.
I just remembered it. Thank you. No, wait, no. I've oh yes. When I start writing any piece of music for this game, I found myself asking, what story can I tell with the music, right? Because everything that you add to a game is an opportunity to inform the player of what they should be thinking or feeling at any given moment, right? And if the story is trying to tell the player something, then the music should be trying to tell the player that same thing. And so I think very programmatically when I write my music, I think like, what is this area about? If I'm writing like dungeon music, right? Let's take for example, the Mount Thesia dungeon music. We have this very beautiful landscape, these mountains, these rivers, it's nature. And so the piece starts out in this 11/8 time, this 5+6 feel, because I wanted it to feel uneasy. I wanted it to feel unsettled because it's nature, and nature is not square corners, you know? And so I wanted to have that feeling to represent the beauty of the area, but then the B section of the piece goes from that odd time to a very militaristic march style, because Enzo has come in and he is stripping all of the resources from the mountains, right? He's killing the animals, he's harvesting the crystals, he is abusing the nature, right? And so I wanted the music to reflect that. And so we went from something that felt very loose and organic to something that became very regimented. His theme was introduced in the low brass. You hear the Dies Irae, which I don't know if anybody here knows the Dies Irae. If you've ever, it's all over. Dies Irae. Basically, if you've heard anything, if you've ever watched a Tim Burton movie, listen to a Danny Elfman score. Sweeney Todd, right? It's a death. Kind of a death motif that has been used in music for decades now. So, this is Christmas, Nightmare Before Christmas, that is the Dies Irae. And so they're killing the animals. So, of course, in the B section of that piece, the Dies Irae plays, Enzo's theme plays, and then the piece ends with what sounds like a very quick and abrupt cymbal crash, which I imagine to be like the slaughtering of the animal, that then leads back to the river sound on the loop and everything. And so that's just one example of it. But like, that's how, and like, whether it's a battle theme or dungeon music, I was always thinking like, what is the story that I'm telling with this? And if I'm telling a story, then there are characters within this story that exist between different pieces of music. So I should use Enzo's theme here, or I should use CrisTales' theme here, right? Because they're a part of that story that's being told with the music. And so that very much influenced the way that I kind of put the soundtrack together, and found myself going, okay, I have this other piece of music that I need to write. How can I draw inspiration from what we already have for the game? How can I pull this together into this next piece? All the battle themes are, the A theme is like the villain's theme. The B theme is the hero's theme, battling against the villain. And, that's kind of what my thought process was as I was going into this, was how much story can I tell with just the music, where the player knows what's going on, they know how they should be feeling before any dialogue has shown up on screen, right? Mandy, I don't know if that was a fair answer of your question or not, but that was the thought process.
Yeah, it was more than enough. Yeah, now that you say about it, the fact that you are trying to, and you manage to tell the story just by the music itself, gives it so much personality. So yeah, the really programmatic fact and it is really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know any other way that I would have done it, because you have to start writing some music, and so you have to start giving yourself some ideas, right? I didn't want to go, okay, well, this is another piece in 4/4, and the bass line goes boop 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 badoop, and I had to tell myself a story to get myself passionate about writing that story musically, right? And then once I had a story idea in mind, it's like, okay, now, and so if you listen to the soundtrack of CrisTales as the game is playing, I'm convinced that I spoil the story for you, because there are themes that get used in certain spots where, like, if you're paying attention, you're like, wait, why am I hearing CrisTales' theme here? What is he trying to tell me? And so there were a couple of times where I told Carlos, I'm like, you're not going to get mad at me, right? Because if people are paying attention, I basically just spoiled something in the game, in the music just now. But anyways.
But
it has a week.
Something, yeah, those should end up being Easter eggs for the nerds who really like to
For sure.
to dig into that. And that is something very nice that you're mentioning, because when you're working in projects like this and have deadlines sometimes tighter than others, you're not always inspired, and that's just our human nature. So you just gotta find that inspiration, right? You
For
just gotta
sure.
go ahead and know yourself good enough to be able to see this gives me inspiration or this doesn't. And speaking of inspiration, which one is your favorite track? Like the one that we as players should like really.
Do
This is the man.
do any of you have kids? Have anyone asked you to pick your favorite child? Like who would ask me to pick a favorite song?
Yeah, but you have that.
Parents deny it, but
Yeah.
all parents have a
Yeah.
favorite child.
Yeah, I am the favorite child.
But deep down, you
Really.
always know.
They
Now,
do.
everyone that's watching right now that knows that they're not the favorite, like they just clutch their chest right now. I honestly, I think I write a good battle theme. Like, there are certainly some of the more lyrical stuff. I think that the Forest Glade piece turned out well. I think the Salt and the Sanctuary turned out well. There are definitely, I think, some nice musical moments throughout the quieter moments of the soundtrack. But that person in me that loves progressive music, that is OCD, that is like I don't like sitting on an idea for too long, right? Like I feel like I get bored with it, and I feel like the listener gets bored, and that may not be the case, but that's how I see it. And so I think that leads to that kind of crazy energy that like the battle themes have the battle themes of the game. And so I know you asked for one, but the three main battle themes for the game, the timeless battle, the battle of attrition, and the battle against time, are really kind of like, I see those as like a trilogy that's telling a complete story. That's like episode 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars. You have the first battle theme is very lively and very kind of sweet lyrical melody. You're going on an adventure. You don't realize what the stakes are yet, and so it seems exciting and fun. It's much more upbeat. And then you get to the secondary battle theme, which I put in halftime to start with, because I wanted it to feel like you were already broken down from all of the battles, right? Now you realize the weight of your actions. You realize the importance of the journey that you're on, and you're weary. You don't want to be fighting anymore, but you have to keep doing it. And so I put that second piece. I started it out in halftime because I wanted you to feel that weariness, right? That your character is feeling at this point in the game. And then the third battle theme is like all hell has broken loose. You are right at death's door. You are fighting the hardest enemies that you will fight in the game. And all three of those pieces are tied together thematically. By the time you get to the third, the battle against time, and I might have to end up saying the battle against time, the third battle theme, if you were going to like force me to pick one, because there's a lot of cool stuff that goes on in that piece. I love the rhythmic syncopation of it, the manic energy of it. There's a moment in the music where it almost sounds like about 25-30 seconds in that you, the player, have been knocked out, and the music kind of recedes a bit. And then, oh my goodness, excuse me. Sorry. There's
Don't worry.
a line that the electric guitar plays. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's the Nareem theme that Norihiko wrote. And I had used the main theme from throughout the game anytime I wanted to allude to homesickness or, you know, that desire to not be out fighting, you know, bad guys, right? And so there's a moment in that piece where the electric guitar calls out the Nareem theme and it like shocks you back. And then all of a sudden the double bass drum comes in and the energy picks back up again. And then the battle themes actually do battle with themselves. The music that comes in after that, the third battle theme, and then you have you have the response of the first battle theme, and then you have you know, and then like the third battle theme comes back even harder and like pummels you into the ground, and then you hear which is the secondary battle theme pushing back against that. And so there's a lot of meta, there's a lot of layers to it. I like the energy of it. I wrote the whole thing probably in a week, maybe. Time. It was written rather late in the development of the game. We decided we wanted some more battle themes. And so I usually, a piece like that, I like to sit with for at least a couple of weeks because it's a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot of instruments to write for. It's a lot of listening back and checking levels and making sure you like the mix of things. And so for
and
as quickly as
that the player is going to listen a lot. So
right. Yes, exactly. And yes, they're going to hear it a ton. It has to.
It was Toby Fox, I think, the guy from Undertale, that he said that, you know, the battle themes, they gotta be the best themes in the game because the player is going to listen, especially in a game like CrisTales, who has random encounters. So you're going to be listening in it, and it cannot get old. So it makes sense to everything is falling apart. Remember, the poor kid here.
Is it flooding there? Are you okay?
almost. I'm like, help.
So yes, exactly. And that played into the concern as well, right? Because you want music that, you know, it's only 90 seconds of music maybe, but they need to be able to hear it over and over and over again and still love it. And that has been a thrill of mine since the game has come out. I will go lurk in people's Twitch channels as they're playing the game and hearing them go and kind of like humming along with the theme as they're playing it. I'm like, they like it. They still like it. They've listened to it for 2 hours straight now and they still like it. And so, yes. So I think the suite of battle themes that I put together, it tells a story beginning to end. I could geek out much more about how the various pieces play off of each other and everything. I think they work well together, but like as far as like a climactic final battle theme, that the battle against time, the final standard battle theme, I really like how that one turned out. I think it represents pretty concretely the way that I go, the way that I approach, you know, music making. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear like how involved you get into the project because that shows a lot of your work, right? Like in games, we have this flexibility to create our own story on parallel of the real story and choose our characters in the music and play with them and make our own game and our own backstory that plays behind the main story and makes it highlight. So it's very nice to hear that you get that involved in the game, and that's why you did it. That's why he chose you. It's not because you have all the credentials or anything like that. It's because you have that way to connect with the game, and that's what developers need. They need to tell a story, and they need someone who gets them and create his own story like something very like, I don't know, cheesy, but like walking everyone with hands.
No, 100%. Yes. And yeah, you know, and I read some reviews that, you know, the people they seem to be drawn to the music because it didn't feel like generic RPG music to them. It felt like the music really connected itself to the area of the game or to the action taking place on screen. And I think, you know, all of the logic that I just was talking about, you know, I think that goes into it, that even if the player, even if the listener doesn't consciously know that that's what's influencing them, it's influencing them all the same, right? They're having that subconscious response. They're getting those goosebumps. They're having that reaction, even if they don't know all of the music theory behind it, even if they don't know that battle theme 3 is battling battle theme 1 at that moment in the piece, right? It still manages to connect with them.
Okay. And our last question, but not less important. What are you planning to do after the release of CrisTales? Where are you going to keep on in your career?
More work, please. Like,
Give me your money, please.
the reward for a job well done is the opportunity to do more of it, right? I want this to be the first of many soundtracks that I make and not the first and only. And so yes, more work. I'm trying to think of a more clever way to put it, right? But I want to be given this opportunity again and again after that, right? I frequently consider myself to be an arrow without a bow, right? I have this ability to do something great, but I need the bow to pull me back and fire me, right? And CrisTales was the bow, right? Like it gave me focus, it gave me purpose, it allowed me to take all of these separate ideas that I had and focus them into something that, while being wildly different track to track, formed a cohesive whole, right? And so that's a kind of like, as a composer, like there aren't many opportunities for people to do stuff like that. That is a blessing. That is a gift, right? Like, sure, I could, maybe get commissioned a piece by some symphony orchestra. If anyone's out there, call me. But like, you could do something like that, but like, the audience is not going to connect with it the way that they connect with a game, where they are immersed in the world, they are playing it, they are invested in those characters, right? And because they're invested in the characters, they're invested in the music, and that music becomes part of the world that they immerse themselves in. And like, that is just a truly unique experience for a composer to get an opportunity to do. And so feel blessed every day. The fact that people have been so receptive to it, have said such nice things about it. I every day hope that means that somebody else will give me an opportunity to breathe life into their game the same way that Carlos gave me that opportunity. And so, keep your fingers crossed for me if you're not too busy typing or something. But yeah, hopefully more music. I want you to hear more from me.
Yay! Well, thank you very much for being with us today. I remind you, everyone, that we have opened our inscriptions for the Woman Game Jam. It is a jam that's going to be for the 20th of August to the 23, I believe. So go on. Please list yourself. We are promoting that more women and girls are part of the game dev industry, even also part of the cast, not the cast, the game developers of CrisTales, the Dreams Incorporated and Psych team is going to be part of our mentors. So it's a great opportunity to know more people that it is interested in the game development. We're going to have awesome talks. For example, I believe that Juan can tell us a little bit more about the talks that we're going to have.
Okay.
In Spanish. It's going to be, the talks are going to be in Spanish, but...
No, one is in English, but with translation. Like I do like translation, but it's like you have to be patient if you are English speaker or Spanish speaker. But I like them. I like to do like instant translation for those talks. So we're gonna have a Spanish talk on August 5 with Jasmine. What was the last name?
Giolito.
She's from Argentina. We're gonna have on August 11 with Rachel Sim, that she's the producer of A Shell in the Pit. And on the 18th, we're gonna have Naila Burney, that is a Colombian working on Ubisoft Montreal. So it's gonna be very fun. All music and audio related talks on the game industry. So everyone is invited. We're gonna do it on my Twitch channel. So go and see.
Quiet Gecko. Yay. It's an awesome experience. Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us. Remember that you can support us on Patreon. And for our biggest tiers, we're going to have, I don't know how to say that in English, una rifa.
Raffle.
Raffle.
Yeah, raffle of the game in the digital edition. So it's super awesome if you want to be a patron of the author and to help
raffle
us.
is the word.
For me, it's not, but
I wrote rifa in English and raffle popped up. So
yeah. Mandy already said that. So yeah, and Tyson says too.
a giveaway, no?
A giveaway. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Giveaway is like you're going to give everyone, and it's not everyone.
No,
Like-
Yeah,
no.
it's
A giveaway for one person.
And it's
What?
more like random, a giveaway. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a raffle is one where like you give a whole bunch of people tickets and then it goes in a bin and then you grab
yeah,
one ticket
that-
out.
Yeah, raffle.
That is a
Thank
raffle.
you.
Yes.
This guy,
That's
he-
the
he-
one.
he-
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
I am mostly fluent in English at this point. And so-
You're right. So remember to support us on Patreon and be nice, be well. See you in the next week. We're going to meet more of the team of the game development. We're now going to meet the team of game effects. No, game audio effects. Should it be the word? One.
What are you talking about?
Que nuestro siguiente invitado es de el game audio, pero de
Okay. It's a game audio person. It's Jasmine. She's music.
no.
Oh,
The next interview of Tan Grande is going to be with the game audio developer that was more like making
the sound designer.
the
the
sound
sound
design,
designer.
Corta
Yes.
for CrisTales.
Yes.
Okay.
So pretty awesome. That's going to be in Spanish. He is from Venezuela, and he will be meeting with us in this same stream next week. So see you later, alligator.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hola, somos Capi y Perdicaki de Tan Grande y Jugando, y este es Kawa.
Desde hace un poco más de un año estamos comprometidos con los desarrolladores indies de Colombia y América Latina. Queremos mostrarle al mundo el talento de nuestra región. Por eso necesitamos de tu ayuda para hacerlo realidad.
Realizamos entrevistas a desarrolladores de juegos en Colombia y América Latina. Además, tenemos otros materiales como gameplays y reseñas.
Amamos la industria y queremos crecer para ser una enorme ventana de contenido. Y tú puedes hacer parte de este crecimiento. Ahora puedes apoyarnos en Patreon, una plataforma de membresía en la que productores de contenido como nosotros recibimos apoyo económico para darle vida y seguimiento a nuestros proyectos. En nuestro caso, un proyecto comprometido con el crecimiento de la economía naranja.
Siendo nuestro patrocinador mensual con un significativo apoyo, puedes cambiar para siempre el futuro de estas industrias. Al tiempo que recibes beneficios como tener tu nombre en el crédito de uno de nuestros videos, hacer parte de nuestra comunidad de Discord, o cuando ya eres un Patreon de alto nivel, recibir obsequios en la puerta de tu casa.
Con tu apoyo podemos seguir produciendo contenido especializado para los desarrolladores. Nuestro mejor logro hasta el momento es que hemos realizado cubrimiento de más de 24 a 48 horas en Game Jams, algo nunca antes visto. Entramos a la intimidad del desarrollo.
Esto fortalece a los indies y permite que muestren su talento en vivo y en directo. Con los fondos que recaudemos podemos dar contenido más seguido, más rápido y más cercano.
La industria de los videojuegos indies es demasiado grande, demasiado exitosa, demasiado creativa para ser tan invisible. Ayúdanos a contagiar al mundo de la fiebre de Tan Grande y Jugando.
Suscríbete a nuestro canal de YouTube, comparte nuestros contenidos en redes y si puedes, patrocina por Patreon, un canal pensado para hacer crecer esta comunidad.
皆さんお願いします。スポータース